meeting of the Statutory Licensing Committee. This meeting is being broadcast live over the internet and will be available to view online now and in the future. May I remind members that as per statutory guidance made under Section 4 of the Local Government Wales Measure 2011 and our formally adopted hybrid meeting policy, any member attending a meeting remotely must be able to be seen and heard by the members and officers who are attending the meeting, as well as by members of the public viewing the meeting. So can I ask that you all please use your cameras for the duration of this meeting. We welcome the use of the Welsh language at meetings. I have had no requests for people to speak Welsh today. So this meeting will be conducted in English only. Members in the chamber, please be aware that we're all on camera and you may be visible on screen when people around you are speaking. And please remember to speak clearly into your microphone. Members participating remotely, can you please refrain from using the chat function and instead use the raised hand icon to indicate when you want to speak. And please remember to keep your microphone muted when you are not talking. So thanks for that. We'll now move on to the agenda, which is item 1, attendance and apologies. Chris, have you got any apologies, please?
We have, Chair. We've got apologies from Councillors Giles Davis, Carl Gordon and Elizabeth Haynes. Thanks.
Thank you for that. Anyone else got anything? No. If not, we'll move on to item 2, which is declarations of interest. Members, do you have any interest to declare? No? Nobody? Thank you. We'll then move on to item 3, which are the minutes of the last meeting. And that was on the 9th of the 5th, 2024. And that's page 3 to page 6. So, members, could you possibly state whether you have anything to raise in relation to these minutes? If not, I would take them as approved. Anybody got anything they'd like to raise? So, we all agree we note their minutes. Thank you. We'll move on to item 4 then, which is a workload update, quarters 3 and 4, October 2023, March 2024, page 7 to 18. Who's going to deliver that? Well done, Ailey, for volunteering.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, members. So the purpose of this report is to update the committee on the work undertaken by the licensing team during quarters 3 and 4 of the reporting period, that being October 2023 to the end of March 2024. This report is to update the committee on the work of the licensing team in relation to its function that fall under the Statutory Licensing Committee, those being the Licensing Act 2003 and the Gambling Act 2005. Operational matters in respect to the Licensing Act 2003. There have been 20 complaints dealt with by the team during the reporting period in relation to matters which fall under the provision of the Licensing Act 2003. Complaints received include allegations of illegal drugs being sold from 2 premises, 3 noise nuisance complaints, and allegations that a premises is operating outside of permitted hours. Information has been shared with partner agencies where allegations received relate to matters outside of the team's remit. All other complaints have been investigated and action taken as appropriate. In November 2023, a weekend multi-agency operation took place with officers from the licensing team, South Wales Fire and Rescue Service and Gwent Police. 4 licensed premises were visited to check compliance with matters under each agency's remit. A premises during the multi-agency operation was identified as not having a named designated premises supervisor. This matter was resolved during the visit. There were issues identified by officers from South Wales Fire and Rescue, which required further action and advice provided where appropriate. In March 2024, an evening multi-agency operation took place with officers from the licensing team and Gwent Police. 8 licensed premises were visited and checked for compliance with licensing conditions. As part of the operation, age verification checks were also undertaken to ensure that persons under the legal age were not consuming alcohol, and no significant issues were identified during this operation. There have been no complaints made in relation to gambling premises during this reporting period. The workload activities undertaken during the reporting period are attached as Appendix A. Officers have been able to meet the targets set for 2023 and 24, and officers from the team have dealt with 1,057 requests for advice during 2023 and 24, compared to 1,208 requests in 22-23 and 1,051 in 21-22. There has been a 60% increase in the total number of complaints received during 2023-24 when compared with the previous year. There have been 2 complaints against service during the reporting period, and both complaints have been investigated and no further action was required. The recommendations before the Licensing Committee today are to note and comment on the contents of this report and note the activity report for October 2023 to March 2024. Thank you, Chair. That concludes my report today.
Thank you, Hayley. Any other members got any questions regarding the report? No? The recommendations are on page 9 of your agenda. And the recommendations are that note and comment on the contents of this report. And the second one is note the activity report for October 2023 to March 2024.
Apologies, Chair.
In agreement with that?
Apologies, Chair. Councillor Norma Parish, I think, has a question.
Oh, sorry, didn't see on the thing. Councillor Parish, sorry about that.
I don't have a question. I'd just like to congratulate the team for the amount of work they've been able to get through, because they are quite a small team. Just say well done.
I totally agree with that. Thank you for that anyway.
Thank you both. That's much appreciated.
Come back to the recommendations. Are we all happy to agree then? Yeah, thank you for that. Right. We now move on to item 5, which is a review of the Council's Statement of Gambling Principles, and that's on pages 19 to 92. Claire, you going to do that report? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. The purpose of the next report for Statutory Licensing Committee is to advise members of the need to review and publish a Statement of Gambling Principles to cover the period 31st of January 2025 to the 30th of January 2028, and to seek approval to commence the statutory consultation process prior to determining the new statement. Section 349 of the Gambling Act requires that a licensing authority every 3 years must prepare a statement of the principles that they propose to apply in exercising their functions under the Act during that period, and then to publish the statement. The Gambling Commission's guidance to local authorities, which is a statutory guidance published under the Act, explains that the policy statement is the primary vehicle for setting out the licensing authority's approach to regulation, having taken into account local circumstances. It ensures that operators have sufficient awareness and understanding of the relevant licensing authority's requirements and approach, including its view on local risks to help them comply with local gambling regulation. The existing Statement of Principles includes the required information, but it must now be reviewed and a new Statement of Principles prepared for publication for the 3-year period that will begin on the 31st of January 2025. Since the publication of the current Statement of Principles in January 2022, the document has proved effective in guiding officers, members, holders of licences and other authorisations granted under the Gambling Act, plus members of the public in understanding how the authority will apply its discretion and use its powers under the Act. It is therefore not considered necessary to greatly change the information contained in the current document. Additionally, and to note, the Government is currently undertaking a review of the Social Responsibility Code of Practice, which will be done in stages, with the final changes likely to be in force from January 2025. The Commission will review test purchasing, strengthen age verification from Think 21 to a Think 25 approach, and will also look at financial vulnerability checks. The Gambling Commission has indicated that local authorities should still proceed with their updated policy as the proposals in the Code of Practice should not have an impact on the Council's statement of policy. In February 2024, members were made aware of the requirement to review the Council's Statement of Principles and approved an initial consultation process to be undertaken to seek views on the Council's current Statement of Principles. This took place between the 5th of March 24 and the 3rd of May 24. One response was received to that initial consultation. A draft revision of the Statement of Principles is now attached to the report as Appendix 1, and any changes made are considered under track changes. The proposed changes are mainly updated references, data and dates, rather than a change to the meaning of any principle within the statement. And as I mentioned previously, these are shown in the document as track changes. It is proposed that the next stage of the consultation process should follow a similar format to previous years, and as minimal changes are proposed to the existing Statement of Principle, the duration of the consultations will be 10 weeks. And that consultation process is outlined in paragraph 4.8 of the report. In 4.9 of the report, you will see a proposed timetable of the overall review of the Statement of Principles. So at the moment, we're at stage 2, and Licensing Committee are being asked to consider the results of the initial consultation and also a draft policy for formal public consultation. Public consultation will take place for approximately 10 weeks and then will run from July to September. At the end of September, a final version of the draft report will be brought back before Licensing Committee to consider, with a date in October for Council to consider the final draft policy for approval and adoption. Stage 3 then refers to the requirement to publicly put the policy on the Council's website and a copy made available for inspection at Council offices, and more detail is provided at paragraph 4.9 of the report. So the recommendations for this report is that the Licensing Committee agree the draft Statement of Principles for the period 25 to 28, subject to any amendments that they wish to make, and then agree to the revised proposed timescales and process for consulting on the draft Statement of Principles for that period. Thank you, Chair. That's my report.
Thank you, Claire, for that. Any members got any questions they'd like to raise regarding that report? Nothing? Right, then, if we go under the recommendations, which are on page 24 of your agenda, which Claire just said, but I'll read them again, is agree the draft Statement of Principles for 2025 to 2028, subject to any amendments, and agree the revised proposed timescales and process for consulting on the draft Statement of Principles for 2025 to 2028. So, Councillor Parish, did you want to come back in?
Yeah. I just propose that the recommendations in 8.1.1 and 8.1.2 are approved.
Thank you for that. Are we all in agreement?
Yep.
No, anybody not agreeing? No. Anybody abstaining? No. Well, thank you for that anyway. We'll now move on to item 6, which is the date of the next meeting, which is also the 26th of the 9th, 2024. Like I said, everyone, you know the date now for the next meeting, and thank you for that. And thank you for your input today.
Thank you all.
And that's the end of the meeting. Thank you. Yeah.